it's on the charger, so it don't matter. uh, Relaxing, I need to relax myself. A source of pure white light appeared above his palm, driving away the thick darkness and Yugio's wistful recollection along with it. Whoa, Kirito murmured. Yugio swallowed. What incredible size! The word armory had called to mind a space like the supply closet at the academy, but nothing could be farther from the true fear. It was at least as big as the great training hall where Kirito had sparred with Volo, I led in Levanti, Volo, Volo Linvantine. The light element danced upward from Yugio's palm, reflecting off all the polished stone walls, and more importantly, off shining metal of every variety and color. The floor was packed with wooden stands for full sets of armor: black armor, white armor, bro- brazen, bronze, bronze, silver, gold, a blinding array of shades, as well as shapes, from light chain and boiled leather to steamless stabs slabs of heavy plate. There had to be at least 500 sets in the room, and hanging all over the high walls was an excrement of what appeared to be conceivable weapons, like confirable weapons. Even with swords alone, there were long and short ones, thick and slender, straight and curved. There were single and double bladed axes, spears, lances, warhammers, whips, bows, every possible every possible variation of weapon in uncounted numbers, stretching from floor to ceiling. Yugio's mouth dropped open and hanged there. If Sortolina ever saw this place, she might just pass out, Kirito finally whispered, breaking the silence after many seconds. Yeah, I think Gororaso would have leaped onto that great sword there and never let go, Yugio muttered. Yugio muttered, letting out his breath at last. He looked around the room. He looked around the room once again and shook his head a few more times. I don't get it. Is the church going to form its own armory or something? Wait, no, I don't get it. Is the church going to form its own army or something? You'd think the Integrity Knights were enough. Hmm. To fight the forces of darkness? No, not quite. Kirito muttered. Kirito muttered. I swear, if I say mother one more freaking time, murmured, looking pensive. Then he turned to his friend. It's the opposite. It's the opposite. They're not creating an army. They collected all these weapons to keep one from being created. I bet all these things are divine objects. So you're just gonna come in here, knock stuff down. Bad child. Anyway, they're not creating an army. They collected all these weapons to keep one from being created. I bet all these things are divine objects, or the next best thing to them. Administrator must have been worried about other groups getting these powerful weapons, so she gathered them all here to keep that strength out of the hands of others. Huh? What does that mean? No group would ever fight against the Axama Church, even if they did have powerful weapons. Maybe it means that maybe that it means the one with the less faith in the church's powers, the pontifex itself, Kirito said dryly. Yujiro didn't understand that at first, and his partner patted him on the back before he could figure it out. Come on, we don't have the time. Let's find our swords. Uh, yeah, it's been hard to pick them out from here, though. The blue rose sword and the black one were white and black letters. Leather. Leather, I swear to God. Leather. No, stop it. No, sir. Leave phone alone. I am reading. If you want to listen, then why don't you just sit down or play with the dark repulsor? Go play with the dark repulsor. Go play with the dark repulsor. Anyway, maybe it means that the one with the least faith in the church's power is the Pontifex herself, Kirita said dryly. Yujiro didn't understand that at first, and his partner patted him on the back before he could figure it out. Come on, we don't have time. Let's find our swords. Yeah, it'd be hard to pick them out from here, though. The blue rose sword and the black one were white and black leather scabbards with little like armation, and there were a number of similar looking blades along the walls. We probably used up too many spiritual resources with that light element to use darkness search arts again. Yukio lampened, wishing that they'd only cast one light instead of two. Then Kyoto said simply, "Oh, found them." He pointed back, just to the left of the doorway they just walked through. Whoa, there they are. Indeed, there were a white and black pair of swords in that direction, undoubtedly the ones belonging to them. Yujiro gazed at his partner in disbelief. Kirito, how did you know without using sacred arts? I figured that they were the last ones brought here. They'd be closest to the doors. Kirito shrugged. Normally, he'd have a proud, childish smirk on his face in this kind of situation. Now he was staring at his sword. Then he exhaled, relaxed, and walked over to grab the black leather scabbard. He paused for the briefest of moments, then lifted it off. Lifted it. My grammar. Oh, I swear. He grabbed the blue rose sword with his other hand and tossed it over. Yujiro hastily reached out to catch it. Yujiro hastily reached out to catch it and felt a familiar weight on his Wrist. Wrist. He had been separated from his blade for less than 2 days, but even he was surprised at the certain urge of sentiment and relief as he clutched, as he clutched, as he clutched, like how he did it. Why? Why? Yeah, I'm looking at you. Mama, can you get your son? Clutched. Ah, yeah. To get out of my room. I let you play with my dark repulsor and then you just go mess with something else. Yeah, he just knocked that down, so.
Come here.
Come on, Marie.
Bitty baby. Come on.
Anyway,
Bitty
he
baby.
had been separated from his blade for less than 2 days. Sir, I am trying to read a book.
To you?
No,
To start?
no,
To start?
I'm not reading it to any of you.
Read to me. Me.
How about you read to yourself?
No, read to me.
You heard me calling you.
Go away.
You heard me calling you.
Get out of my room.
Before I jump off this cliff.
Hey, you heard me.
Go ahead and do it, fam. I don't care.
You heard me calling.
No, you were. So, did you get a sucker off the table?
No, I didn't.
Stay off the table.
What?
She would. She really would.
Because they done sit
Anyway.
there and stole suckers. Put it
I
on
said
the
get out of
table,
my room.
opened like 9 of them.
Get out of my room.
You heard me.
Okay. Okay.
Pick me up. Pick me up. Pick me
I could just casually get this dark repulsor,
No.
hand it on these stairs, and make it go away. See, now I gotta get my hallucinator and dark repulsor. Now I gotta get my hallucinator and dark repulsor near me so I can keep these little kids out of my room. Anyway. Back to what I was reading. He had been separated from his blade for less than 2 days, but he was surprised at the sudden urge of relief as he clutched the sheath in both hands. Ever since they cut down the digger Caesar in his hometown, the blue rose sword had been at his side. It helped him through several great challenges, from the tournament in Zakaria to the entrance duel at Swordcraft Academy. And even when he broke the taboo index to cut off Mr. Ketchup's arms. No, wait, no, that's Mr. Mustard. Never mind. If the Axiomon Church had been stockpiling powerful weapons for years and years, then it was nothing short of miraculous luck that the Blue Rose sword had been sleeping undisturbed in the cave for centuries. It was fate, proof that their route to taking Alice back was correct.
No.
Don't just stand there and drinking it in. Strap it on already. Kirito chimed in. Yu-Gi-Oh came back to his senses and saw that his partner had already fastened his sheath into his sword belt. He smiled awkwardly and did the same, then patted the hilt with satisfaction. The expensive-looking sets of armor had nameplates displayed nearby with impressive names like Armor of 1,000 Thunderbolts and Quake Mountain Plate. What do you think, Kirito? There are so many. I wish we could find some armor that would fit us. No, we've never worn them before. It's better not to try something you're not used to. Let's just take some clothes over there, he replied, pointing to the end of the line of armor, where a variety of colorful outfits awaited. Yu-Gi-Oh looked down at his own school uniform, which was dirty and torn from 2 days' use, the battle against Eldry, and the frantic escape afterward. You're right. Pretty soon these would be more tatters than clothes. The two light elements overhead were starting to dim. Yujiro abandoned his hope for armor and poured through the expensive looking fabric until he found shirts and pants that seemed the right size for them. They turned their backs for privacy because, they ain't with that gate and got to change it. Yujiro ran his arms through the ultramarine shirt, which was very similar in tone to his school uniform, and marveled at the softness of its texture. He turned around and found that Kirito was reacting in a similar way, running his hands all over the fabric. I bet these clothes have some kind of special origin too. Let's hope they can stop the Integrity Knight's attacks.
You missed it. He didn't climb up the stairs and then say that push up that came home.
Don't get your hopes up too high, Yuchio
Right,
chuckled,
that's right. He was
then
right
got
there when he
serious.
came in, so he started crying.
So, shall we go? Yeah, let's do it.
You gotta keep going
They
upstairs.
returned to the entrance. Everything so far had been going so easily, it almost felt wrong. But that wasn't long. That wouldn't last long. They shared a moment of knowing determination, ready for anything that might come. As soon as they took a door handle, Yujiro on the right, as they each took a door handle, Yujiro on the right and Kirito on the left. They pulled gently, just barely opening a crack.
Where's the baby
When
going?
tink tink tink, a number of metal arrows studded into the outer surface of the thick doors. Whoa! What the? The force of the impact knocked the doors further inward, sending both Kirito and Yujiro tumbling to the floor. Standing on the landing at the top of the great staircase on the other side of that rectangular entrance hallway was a knight wearing familiar red armor, notching fresh arrows, four at once, in fact, to a long bow as tall as he was. It was the Integrity Knight who had chased them around the rose garden on the dragon. The range between both was about 30 mils. It was way too far for a sword to reach, but close enough for a master archer to strike with perfect accuracy. They wouldn't have time to pull their swords free, much less recover from their fall and scramble to safety behind the walls. This is exactly why I wanted armor. We could have had shields, Yujiro protested to no one but himself, right as the knight began to draw back the string. Forget about escaping harm. You have to focus on avoiding a fatal blow, or at least a killing one. Yujiro stared hard at the line of four arrows. They had to focus on avoiding. Oh my god. Yujiro stared hard at the line of four arrows. The dull silver tips seemed trained not on their hearts but their legs. As Cardinal suggested, the knights appeared to be ordered to take them alive, not dead. But from their perspective, the two things might have as well been the same. The Integrity Knight's bowstring creaked. A moment of silence in which everything short of time itself stopped. Then Kirito's voice ripped through it. Burst element! It was so quick that Yujiro didn't actually pick up what his partner said at the time. It only clicked for him once he saw the result. Instantly, his entire vision went white. Powerful light that, like the descendant of Sarlus itself, filled the room. It was a simple spell that released light, one of the elements that made up buildings of blocks of elemental sacred arts. But Kirito had never actually made the chant to produce the element in the first place. So where did it... Oh, it had been there all along. The light element they created to elim... What? Oh. Oh, it had been there all along. The light elements they created to illuminate the infirmary many minutes ago. Ever since, they had been floating around, waiting for the command input that would utilize them. Kirito simply gave that command to the elements overhead, producing a sudden burst of light. Between this and the way he threw the shattered pieces of glass against in the fight against Eldry, he always had a knack for you making use of what he always had a knack of making use of what's ever nearby. Yu-Gi-Oh thought. He willed strength into his legs and leaped to the right. Half a second later, he heard the unpleasant sound of metal arrows gorging stone coming from the spot where he'd just been. He was going to continue moving to the safety. He was going to continue moving to the safety of the wall, but then he heard Kirito shout, "Forward!" Instantly, he understood the intention and launched himself, not diagonally, but directly forward. The light elements had burst behind their heads, meaning that they hadn't seen the actual source of light directly, but the Integrity Knight mostly had. They would have a few seconds with their enemy who couldn't see. Light elements were weak in attack power compared to heat or freezing elements, and in fact were most often used in healing magic. But causing a weapon to flash could have please go somewhere else.
Bit back. What you doing? Come back.
But causing a weapon to flash could have blinding or menaking effects. Menacing. That's menacing. Okay. But causing a weapon to flash could have blinding or menacing effects. The class at the academy claimed that theoretically one should counteract the use of light elements in battle with their anti-element, dark. As the principal of sword and sacred arts abilities, an integrity knight would have naturally been aware of this basic knowledge, so they couldn't count on the light-based element trick, like light-based oh my god, I freaking failed that. Okay, as the principal of sword and sacred arts ability, an integrity knight would have naturally been aware of this basic knowledge, so they couldn't count on the light-based blindness trick to work twice. This was their first and only chance to close the distance on the ranged fighter. Over and over, Kirito had told Yu-Gi-Oh that quick adaptation and smart action formed the core of the Aincrad style. It was the opposite way of thinking from the high Norkaya style, which empathize, which empathize, which which showed grace and stylistic movement. In order to keep your head about you and apply the teachings of the Aincrad style, it was essentially to keep its secret motto in mind: stay cool. Yu-Gi-Oh peeled after his partner as best as he could, drawing the blue rose sword from his left side as he went. Immediately afterward, the light element was spent, and proper color returned to the world. They were out of the armory and into the enter like in into the antechamber. Antechamber. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce that. Antechamber. Antechamber. 20 steps. 20 steps. Can I just please pronounce words right? I was on a roll for a few seconds and I just started messing up. 20 steps up the, up the, up the, 20 steps up the staircase on the other side of the room. They saw the Integrity Knight standing in place. As expected, he continued to appear partially blind. He had his hand up to the visor of his dark red helm, his upper half swaying. Fortunately for them, unlike Eldry, this knight did not have a sword at his side. Going into battle indoors with only a longbow was a bold, confident move. He seemed to believe that he could still hit their legs with perfect accuracy as they approached. Even with his mind cool and clear, Ugio couldn't deny that there was a little flicker of anger in his head. Sir Knight, you're just like Mr. Ketchup. Proud, hotly, not hotly, like I can't spell, like I can't say that without it sounding gay. I'm just gonna call it cocky. Sir Knight, you're just like Mr. Ketchup. Proud, cocky, and perfectly assured of your own righteousness. You believe it makes you impervious, but that will only be your undoing. I'm going to make sure you realize that. He charged up the great staircase, propelled by this rather unfamiliar emotion. 1 steps, 2 steps, and on the third, the knight removed his hand from his helmet visor and swung it back behind his head, then pulled out more metal bows from his quiver. All of them at once, in fact. When he brought it back around, there were at least 30 arrows clutched in his hand. Before Yu-Gi-Oh could wonder what he was going to do with that many, the knight arrayed the entire bundle along the length of the horizontal bowstring. What? Yu-Gi-Oh gasped and Yu-Gi-Oh gasped. Yu-Gi-Oh gasped. Gasped. I don't know. He freaking how do you say that? He freaking did a Nani moment. Nani? Yu-Gi-Oh halted. Gasped. Yeah, he had a Nani moment. Anyway, Yu-Gi-Oh gasped and halted, right at the third step of the stairs. It couldn't be possible to shoot 30 arrows from a single bowstring. Steadily getting, it couldn't, it couldn't be possible to shoot 30 arrows from a single bowstring at once and have them fly accurately. He heard the sound of cranking metal. A shiver ran down his spine when he realized it was the sound of the arrows steadily giving way under an immense grip. Kirito had stopped right to the right of him, unsure of the knight's true intentions. Was it a desperate bluff, or was he really going to? The long blow. Oh my! Oh God, no! That sounds gay. No homo. The long bow yanked back all at once, with a louder creaking sound than before. Back and to the left, Kirito bellowed. The air tangled, and then the air twangled? Yeah, the air twangled, and then snapped as the string finally gave out. But the 30 arrows flew in a radiant pattern, like in a red owl pattern, a fatal silver sheet raining down from their heads from above. Yu-Gi-Oh pushed so hard he thought his legs would break, hurting himself hurtling himself to the left, and holding his sword along the length of his body like a shield. If the knight's vision had been perfect, they would have been easily pumped full of holes. One arrow struck the blue rose sword and clanked away. I have no idea what I'm going to eat. Another caught the right hem of Yu-Gi-Oh's top of Yu-Gi-Oh's pants. Another ripped the skin of his left flank, and yet another grazed his left cheek, taking a few hairs with it. Once his shoulder slammed onto the floor, Yu-Gi-Oh looked down, gritting his teeth in preparation for what he would see. After he realized he wasn't hurt too badly, he glanced over at Kirito, who had gone in the opposite direction.
Mother, do you have scissors?
No, I do not have scissors. Kirito, are you okay? He shouted. His black-haired partner looked a little shaken as he replied, "Yeah, somehow. I think it actually went between my toes." Yu-Gi-Oh saw that there was an arrow in the toe of Kirito's left shoe, the tip pointing through the soul to the through the soul, solely through the soul. He exhaled, thankful for his partner's quick reflexes and fantastic luck. That was a close one, he gasped, forcing himself to his feet. Upon the on the landing, the Integrity Knight seemed at a loss. His quiver was empty, and the string of bows he hung limp, and the string of his bow hung limp and broken. There could be no greater loss for an archer. But this was an Integrity Knight, not someone to underestimate, and certainly not one to pity. Let's go. Wait, why am I watching this other than because Tansu is the one who's reading? I have no idea why. You're just basically watching me read the alicization. I'm like on alicization rising page 62. Like, I'm just saying, like, there's parts that sounds kind of gay. I can't rephrase that. Kirito, you okay? He shouted. His black-haired male. Oh God, no, no homo. Why? Why? No homo, man. Rotate device. I'm rotating device. Anyway. Up on the landing, the Integrity Knight seemed at a loss. His quiver was empty, and the string of his bow hung limp and broken. Could be no greater loss for an archer, but this was an Integrity Knight, not someone to underestimate, and certainly not one to pity. Oh, so you're saying that? Oh, so you're saying it's okay to have everyone needs a little gay in their life? Okay, how about this? Let's go, Kirito-kun! Yu-Gi-Oh murmured, taking a step up. But Kirito thrust out a hand to stop him, still holding the arrow he pulled from his shoe. Wait, the knight is casting a sacred art. Nani? Yu-Gi-Oh paused to listen. Oh my god, stop! Here, have the darker pulsar. Happy now. Yu-Gi-Oh paused to listen. Since they were outside of attack range, they needed to respond to any spell with one of the opposite element. He focused on the voice coming through the knight's metal helmet. The panting. Oh God! The chanting pace was speedy, but third, thanks to the study they've done in the library, he could make out the words. Yet the art itself was unfamiliar to him. Without hearing the generate command that would identify the type of element being. Oh no! Imagine Kirito wearing a freaking speedo. Oh god. Without hearing the generate command that would identify the type of element being summoned, there was no way to counterattack it to counteract it effectively. Uh-oh. This is bad. Oh, whoa. I'm gonna read this, and this is actually what it says in the book. Uh-oh. This is bad. Kirito moaned. It's not an elemental art. It's perfect weapon control. Why does Kirito have to moan that? I don't understand. Bruh, gone for it. I gave you the dark repulsor. Play with it. No sooner was the statement out of his mouth. No sooner was the statement out of his mouth than No sooner was the statement out of his mouth than the night finished. Oh, clear and crisp with enhanced ornament. The two ends of the snapped string suddenly lit up with orange flame, accompanied by the soft sound of their ignition. The fire burned through the string in an instant, and when it reached the ends of the long bow, the copper-colored weapon burst into a recoiling red flame. Even at the bottom of the staircase, Yu-Gi-Oh had turned his face away from the skin's sneering heat. The fire shooting from the bow withered the Integrity Knight himself, making him seem like he was aflame. This development caught Yu-Gi-Oh that he was by such surprise that he was unsure how to react. Should he assume that even with perfect weapon control, the lack of any arrows was a major loss of power and charge in? Or was using up all his arrows at once a sign that the knight knew he didn't need any more arrows with his bow in this state? Yu-Gi-Oh glanced briefly at his partner to see how he was reacting. Kirito was neither pulling back nor charging forward, but staring wide-eyed with a childlike grin on his lips. This is amazing.
Brother,
I wonder what that bow was made of originally.
brother, your foot is ready.
Okay. Now's not the time for that, Yu-Gi-Oh said, resisting the urge to punch his friend's shoulder. They could choose to use their newly learned perfect control to fight back, but their opponent would not wait for them. He would certainly attack before they could complete the long chant. If they were going to use that, they needed to have started it at the same time as he. Yu-Gi-Oh prepared himself to react when the enemy struck, but the knight decided to pause, transferring his blazing bow to one hand so he could lift his helmet visor with the other. I heard! I'm coming in a minute. His face was hidden in the shadow cast by the flames, but Yu-Gi-Oh could sense a steely gaze just as sharp as those arrows. The knight's voice was oh my god. The knight's voice was so hard it scarcely seemed human. It has been 200 years I last bathed in the fire of my congregation bow. I see that you have the skill to match Eldritch Synthesis 31 indeed, sinners. Now your crimes have further deepened. You did not best him in proper combat, but misled him with impure dark arts. Dark arts? Kirito gasped. Yujiro was equally taken aback. Then he shot his head in denial. Then he shook his head in denial. No, we didn't use any dark magic. We just talked about the time before Eldry became an Integrity Knight. Before he became a knight? We have no past. The Shining Integrity Knights were all we have ever been but after our summoning from heaven, he belted, voice echoing like steel off the staircase. Eugeo held his breath. Cardinal had told him that the Integrity Knights couldn't access their pre-knighthood memories, so this Red Knight had been led to believe that he, too, was summoned from the heavenly realm. If they could simulate the memories being blocked by his Pietri model, module, like module, is it? I don't think it's model because it's spelled different. So Piety module, they could shake this man too, but that was impossible given that they didn't even know his name. They couldn't stop him in his tracks the same way they did with Eldry. Standing amid a sea of airborne sparks from his bow, the knight barked like a bolt of lightning. I have been ordered to take you alive, so I cannot reduce you to ash. But now that I have unleashed the power of the Conflagration Bow, know that you are likely to lose an arm or two. Let us see if you can evade the flames of condemnation, and reach me with your flimsy blades. He held his bow aloft and placed his right hand in the spot where the drawstring should have been. His fingers pinched shut, and there was nothing there. It couldn't mean. It couldn't mean. Fierce flames ran out in front of the bow, shifting into the shape of an arrow. The burning red projectile gleamed with tremendous power. Eugeo felt his spine stiffen. No string, no ammo, no problem, Kirito muttered. Eugeo turned to him, chin nearly quivering, and asked, "Do you have a plan?" I have to believe that he can't shoot const- constructively. I'll find some way to stop that first shot, and then you hack away at him. You believe? Meaning that if he can shoot those flame arrows one after the other, we're done for. But even if it's just the one, wouldn't that mean it's enough to finish us off without a follow up? How does Kirito plan to defend against it? Yujiro wondered, but there was no time left for that now. All right, he agreed. If Kirito said he could stop it, he would. This was still far more realistic than when he said he chopped down the Giga Caesar. The two raised their swords, then showed signs of determination, prompting the Integrity Knight to pull back on his invisible string. The heat licking at Yujio's cheeks strengthened. The flames from the conflagration bow were soaring up to the ceiling over the landing, painting the marble surface black. Kirito's movements was sudden. He charged without a yell, without a grand launching leap, like a leaf caught in a rapid river. One breath later, Yujio hurried after him. As they climbed, he noticed a faint blue light sinking from his partner's left hand, where it loosely held the sword. Yujio would never mistake the hint of a frost element, which he must have generated while the knight was giving his speech. By the time they were halfway up the 20-step staircase, the knight had the bow drawn to its full length. That was That was when the high-speed string of commands burst from Kirito's mouth. Form element, shape, like shield shape, discharge. He thrusted out his left hand, hurling a line of 5 elements, the maximum that one hand could generate at a time. The blue points formed a line of large round shields, one after the other, that filled the space between Kirito and the Integrity Knight. The knight barked yet again. Laughable! Pierce him! With a roar like the breath from a fire dragon, the arrow, more like a spear of flame, launched itself forward. It took only an instant for the flaming spear to intercept with Kirito's ice shield line. The first shield burst easily, the shards instantly evaporating into steam. The second and third erupted before the sound even reached their ears. The fourth shield the fourth shield softened and wrapped in the middle where the arrow landed, but it still burst. Through the final shield, the flaming lance bore down, filling the entire screen with red, filling the entire scene with red. Throughout it all, Yu-Gi-Oh kept his pace going up the stairs. He couldn't slow down now while his partner maintained that mad dash. As Yu-Gi-Oh watched, teeth gritted, the fiery spear made contact with the fifth shield and finally slowed down its ferocious pace just a bit. Shots, not shots, sparks shot through the air as the projectiles sought to shatter its obstacle of the opposing element. Yu-Gi-Oh's eyes bulged. Bulged. For an instant, it looked like the fiery spear changed shape on the other side of the trans, translucent, translucent ice wall. It sprouted a large beak and spread wings, like some giant bird of prey. But before he could so much as blink, the final shield cracked and burst. Blazing heat washed over him, drying the breath from his lungs. The spear of fire, the phoenix, hurled down on Kirito, free of the barriers at last. Yeah! At last, a fierce shout burst from Kirito's throat. He thrust his black sword forward. Surely he isn't going to try and cut that bird, Yu-Gi-Oh thought. Instead, Kirito's extended blade traced an unexpected path, faster than the eye could follow. It spun like a wheel mill around the axle of his glowing fingers. But the speed of the rotation was at normal. However, however, he was managing to spin his fingers. The blade was moving fast enough to be a blur, as if it, too, was now a translucent shield blocking the way. The head of the phoenix made contact with the sixth shield. There was a fierce blasting sound, perhaps a roar of fury from the bird, and then the flaming projectile that had pierced 5 shields of ice was torn into scattering shards by the spinning blade. More than a little of it landed on Kirito, and the pieces caused small explosion where they hit. Yu-Gi-Oh saw his partner's body fly through the air as though struck, and he screamed, "Kirito!" Even through the shower of sparks and flames, Kirito managed to shout back, "Don't stop, Yu-Gi-Oh!" And yeah, that's why no homo, but that's why I'm gonna stop there.